They say you never stop being a mother, even when your children are grown, even when you think the hardest days are behind you. I learned that lesson on a Tuesday morning in December, standing in my kitchen, holding a phone call that would change everything. But let me back up. Let me tell you how an ordinary day became the day I almost lost everything that mattered. My name is Linda Martinez. I'm 58 years old. I've been a nurse for 34 years before I retired last spring. I've delivered babies, held hands during final breaths, seen miracles and tragedies. I thought I'd seen it all. I was wrong. That Tuesday started like every other Tuesday. I woke at 6:30, made coffee in the same mug my late husband bought me 20 years ago. The house was quiet, too quiet sometimes, since David passed 3 years ago, but I'd learned to fill the silence with routines. I had plans that day, simple plans: grocery shopping at 9, book club at 2, dinner prep for when my son Michael brought my granddaughter Sarah over that evening. Just an ordinary day in an ordinary life. I was scrolling through my phone, checking the weather, when it rang. Unknown number. Normally, I don't answer those. Too many scammers. Too much noise. But something made me pick up. Call it instinct. Call it mother's intuition. Call it fate. Hello. Silence. Then breathing. Heavy, panicked breathing. Hello? I repeated. Who is this? Mom. One word, but I knew that voice anywhere. My daughter, Emma. And she was crying. My heart stopped. Emma never cried. Not when she broke her arm at 12. Not at her father's funeral. Not ever. Emma was my strong one. My rock. Emma, what's wrong? Where are you? Mom, something's happened. Something terrible. I need you to listen carefully. The way she said it, the tremor in her voice. Every maternal instinct in my body went on high alert. I'm listening, baby. Tell me, it's Sarah. She's gone. The world tilted. Sarah, my granddaughter, 7 years old, with Michael's dark eyes and her mother's bright smile, the light of my life. Gone. What do you mean gone? Taken. Someone took her. From school. During recess, they just took her. My legs gave out. I grabbed the counter to stay upright. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen. Not to us. Not to normal families in safe neighborhoods when, how long ago? 2 hours. The school called Michael. He called the police. Mom. They can't find her. They've searched everywhere. She's just gone. 2 hours. My grandbaby had been missing for 2 hours and I didn't know. Didn't feel it? How could I not feel it? I'm coming. Where's Michael? At the police station. Mom, there's something else. Something the police found. My throat closed. I didn't want to hear it. Whatever came next would be worse. They found a note. In Sarah's backpack. It was addressed to you. To me. Why would kidnappers leave a note for the grandmother? What did it say? Emma's voice broke. It said, Linda Martinez, you have 48 hours. Tell them the truth or you'll never see her again. The choice was always yours. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The truth. What truth? I didn't understand. Emma, I don't know what that means. I don't. Mom, what truth? What are they talking about? Do you know who took her? No, of course not. I don't understand this at all. But even as I said it, something cold settled in my stomach. A feeling, a memory trying to surface. Something buried deep. The police want to talk to you, Emma said. They're coming to your house. Mom, please. If you know anything at all, please tell them. I don't know anything, sweetheart. I swear. We hung up. I stood in my kitchen. The same kitchen where I'd made breakfast for my children thousands of times. And tried to understand. Sarah was gone. Someone had taken my granddaughter. And they'd left a message for me. The doorbell rang 15 minutes later. 2 detectives. A man and a woman. Professional. Sympathetic. But their eyes held suspicion. Detective Barnes did most of the talking. Mid-40s. Gray at the temples. Tired eyes that had seen too much. Mrs. Martinez, I'm sorry we're meeting under these circumstances. I need to ask you some questions about your granddaughter's disappearance. I led them to the living room. Offered coffee, they declined. We sat. The note mentioned you specifically, Detective Barnes said. It said you have information. A truth you need to tell. Do you have any idea what that refers to? No. None. I've been trying to understand since Emma called. Walk me through your relationship with Sarah. How often do you see her? 3, 4 times a week. She stays with me some weekends. She's my world. Detective, I don't understand any of this. What about enemies? Anyone who might want to hurt you or your family? I almost laughed. Enemies? I was a retired nurse. I lived alone, watched too much television, Had the same 3 friends I'd had for 20 years. No enemies. I live a quiet life. Very quiet. The female detective, Rodriguez, leaned forward. Mrs. Martinez, I need you to think carefully. Is there anything in your past? Anything at all that someone might use against you? My past. I'd lived 58 years. Raised 2 children. Nursed thousands of patients. Married my high school sweetheart. Where would I even begin? I can't think of anything. I really can't. They asked more questions. About my late husband. About my work. About Michael and Emma. About Sarah's other grandmother, David's mother, who lived in Florida. About everything. After an hour, they left with promises to keep me updated, but I saw it in their eyes. They thought I was hiding something. They thought I knew. I called Michael as soon as they left. He sounded destroyed. Mom, where is she? Where's my baby girl? I don't know, honey, but we'll find her. The police will find her. The note, Mom, what did they mean about the truth? What truth? I don't know. I've been thinking and thinking. I can't figure it out. Think harder. His voice broke. My son, my firstborn, falling apart. They took my daughter. They said you know something, so think. He hung up. I sat in the silence and tried to think, tried to remember, but there was nothing, no secret, no buried past, no truth to tell, unless, a memory surfaced. Faint, decades old, something I hadn't thought about in years. No, that couldn't be it. That was nothing. Ancient history, irrelevant. But what if it wasn't? I went to my bedroom, to the closet, to the box I kept on the top shelf, the one I never opened, the one filled with things from before David, before children, before I became the person I was now. My hands shook as I pulled it down. Dust covered the lid. How long had it been? 20 years, 30. Inside were photographs, letters, documents, pieces of a life I'd left behind. A different Linda, a younger Linda, a Linda who made choices she'd spent a lifetime trying to forget. I pulled out a photograph, yellowed with age, 4 young women standing together, smiling, arms around each other, college friends. Summer of 1986. I was second from the left, 22 years old, dark hair, bright eyes, the whole world ahead of me. The girl next to me was Katherine, my best friend, my roommate, the girl I'd known better than anyone, the girl who disappeared 38 years ago. My hands trembled. I hadn't thought about Katherine in decades, had buried that whole summer deep where it couldn't hurt anymore, but looking at her face now, young and alive and smiling, the memories came flooding back. Katherine vanished in August 1986. Just gone one morning, her bed made, her clothes still in the closet, her car in the parking lot, no note, no explanation, no body ever found. The police investigated, questioned everyone, especially me, her closest friend, but they found nothing. Eventually, they stopped looking. Life moved on. I met David, got married, had children, built a different life. But what if someone knew? What if someone knew what really happened that summer? The doorbell rang again. I jumped, scattering photographs across the bed. It was Emma. She looked exhausted, eyes red from crying. She fell into my arms. Mom, I'm so scared. What if we don't find her? What if don't go there. We'll find her. We sat on the couch, held hands. For a moment, she was 5 years old again, needing her mother after a nightmare. Emma, I need to ask you something. About the note. Did the police say anything else? Any other clues? Just that it was handwritten, in red ink, and there was a symbol at the bottom, some kind of circle with lines through it. My blood went cold. I knew that symbol, had seen it before, 38 years ago. Mom, what is it? You look like you've seen a ghost. Maybe I had. Maybe ghosts from the past had finally caught up with me. Emma, I need to tell you something. About before you were born. About a summer I've never talked about. She looked at me with those eyes so much like her father's, confused, worried, so I told her. About Katherine. About that summer. About the night everything changed. It was August 15, 1986. Katherine and I had just finished our junior year at Portland State. We were living in a small apartment off campus, working part-time jobs, planning our futures. Katherine was brilliant, studying biochemistry. She wanted to cure diseases, save the world. She was passionate about everything. Intense. Sometimes too intense. She'd been acting strange that summer. Secretive, disappearing for hours, coming back late with no explanation. I asked her about it, but she brushed me off. I'm working on something, she'd say. Something important. I'll tell you when it's ready. Then one night, She came home terrified, shaking, pale as death. Linda, I need your help. I did something I can't take back. What did you do? I found something at work, in the lab. Documents, research, something they're hiding. Katherine worked as a research assistant at a private pharmaceutical lab near campus. Good money, flexible hours, but she'd been troubled by something there for weeks. What kind of research? Illegal research, dangerous research, testing on people without consent. Linda, they're hurting people, and I have proof. She showed me files, documents, photographs, things that made my stomach turn. Human experimentation, falsified data, corporate cover-ups. You need to go to the police. I said, I can't. They'll kill me. These people, they have connections, power, money. If I go to the authorities, I'll disappear. Then what do you want to do? I'm going to expose them. I'm going to give these files to a journalist, someone who can't be bought, but I need you to hold on to copies, just in case. She gave me a package, sealed, told me to hide it, never open it unless something happened to her. Nothing's going to happen to you, I said. But 2 days later, she was gone. The police investigated, searched the apartment, questioned me for hours. I told them about the lab, about the files. But when they searched Katherine's things, they found nothing. No documents, no evidence, just a normal college student who'd vanished. And the package she gave me, I'd hidden it in the wall, behind a loose panel in our apartment closet, too scared to turn it over, too scared to even look at it. When my lease ended, I moved out, started over, tried to forget, eventually convinced myself Katherine had run away, started a new life somewhere, that the whole thing was just paranoia. But the package, I'd taken it with me, kept it, moved it from place to place, until finally, I buried it in storage and never thought about it again. Emma stared at me, processing, trying to understand. Mom, are you saying someone kidnapped Sarah because of something that happened almost 40 years ago? I don't know, but that symbol on the note, it was the logo of the pharmaceutical company, the one Katherine worked for. Do you still have the package? The files? I nodded slowly. In a storage unit across town. I haven't opened it in decades. We need to go. Now, we need to see what's in there. She was right. Whatever was in that package, it was connected to Sarah's disappearance. It had to be. We drove to the storage facility in silence. My mind raced. Why now? Why after all these years? What could possibly be in those files that still mattered? The storage unit was small, filled with boxes of old memories. It took 20 minutes to find the right one. Bottom corner, covered in dust. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside, wrapped in plastic, was the package Katherine gave me 38 years ago. The seal was unbroken. All these years, I'd never looked. Emma helped me open it. Inside were folders, hundreds of pages, photographs, lab reports, correspondence, and a letter, in Katherine's handwriting, addressed to me. Linda, if you're reading this, I'm already gone. The research I discovered is bigger than I thought. They're not just experimenting on volunteers. They're targeting specific populations, creating treatments that work for some and kill others. Genetic discrimination, eugenics hiding behind corporate medicine. The people behind this have unlimited resources. They'll do anything to protect their secrets. I'm sorry I dragged you into this, but someone needs to know. Someone needs to remember. Don't let them win. Don't let them erase what they did. Katherine. My hands shook. I looked at Emma. Her face was pale. Mom, this is insane. Are you saying Sarah was taken because of this? I don't know, but it's the only thing that makes sense. I started reading through the files. Names, dates, experimental protocols. And then I saw it. A name I recognized, Dr. James Patterson, CEO of Patterson Pharmaceuticals, one of the largest drug companies in the country, worth billions, and according to these files, he'd personally overseen illegal human experiments in 1986. Emma, do you have your phone? Look up Patterson Pharmaceuticals. See if James Patterson is still alive. She searched. Her eyes went wide. Mom, he's not just alive. He's here, in Portland. There's a news article from last week. He's opening a new research facility. There's a ceremony tomorrow. Tomorrow. We had 48 hours. Tomorrow would be day 2. We need to go to the police. Emma said. Show them this. No. The note said, tell the truth or I'd never see Sarah again. Not go to the police. Tell the truth. They want me to do something specific. What do they want? I looked at the files. At Katherine's letter. At 38 years of buried secrets. They want me to stay silent. They've stayed hidden this long because no one knows. But if these files go public, Patterson's empire collapses. They took Sarah to make sure I never tell. Then we have leverage. We have what they want. No, they have what we want, Sarah. And they'll only give her back if I promise to stay quiet, to let the past stay buried. Emma grabbed my hands. Mom, you can't. You can't let them get away with this. Katherine died trying to expose them. But Sarah is alive, and I'll do anything to keep her that way. We sat in that storage unit, surrounded by evidence of decades-old crimes, and faced an impossible choice: justice for Katherine and countless victims, or Sarah's life. How does a mother make that choice? How does anyone? My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Mrs. Martinez. amansvoice.com. Professional cold. I assume you've had time to think, to remember. Do you understand now? Who is this? Where's my granddaughter? She's safe. For now. You have 32 hours remaining. When the time expires, you'll receive instructions. Follow them exactly. Tell no one. Bring nothing. And Sarah goes home. Refuse, and you'll never see her again. Simple. I want to talk to her. I need to know she's okay. A pause. Then, a small voice. Grandma? Sarah, my baby. I pressed the phone to my ear, tears streaming down my face. Sarah, sweetheart, are you okay? Are you hurt? I'm scared. I want Daddy. I want to go home. I know, baby. I know, but you're going to be okay. Grandma's going to fix this. I promise. Mrs. Martinez. The man's voice again. 32 hours. Don't disappoint us. The line went dead. Emma was crying. What do we do? Mom, what do we do? I looked at the files, at the evidence, at the truth Katherine died to protect. Then I looked at my daughter, at Emma's desperate face, at the thought of Sarah, 7 years old and terrified. We get her back. Whatever it takes. We get her back. We drove back to my house in silence. Emma gripped the steering wheel so tight her knuckles were white. I held the files against my chest like they were made of glass. 32 hours. Less than a day and a half to decide between justice and family. Between what was right and what was necessary. When we got inside, Michael was waiting on my porch. He looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. His suit was wrinkled, his eyes hollow. Where were you? I've been calling for an hour. He saw the files in my arms. What is that? We went inside, sat around my kitchen table, the same table where I'd served them breakfast as children, where we'd celebrated birthdays and holidays, where we'd become a family. And I told Michael everything. About Katherine, about the experiments, about the choice we were facing. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Then he stood, paced, ran his hands through his hair, the way he'd done since he was a little boy when he was upset. So let me get this straight. Some pharmaceutical company did illegal experiments 40 years ago. Your friend tried to expose them and disappeared. Now they've taken Sarah to make sure you stay quiet. Yes. And if we go to the police with this evidence, Sarah dies. That's what they're saying. Then we don't have a choice. We stay quiet. We get Sarah back. End of story. Emma shook her head. Michael, these files show they killed people. Maybe dozens. Maybe more. We can't just pretend. I don't care. He slammed his hand on the table. I don't care what they did 40 years ago. I care about my daughter. Right now, today. Nothing else matters. But Mom's friend died trying to. I don't care. Michael's voice broke. Sarah is 7 years old. She's terrified. She's alone with people who've already proven they'll kill to protect their secrets. If giving up some old files saves her life, then that's what we do. Period. I understood his rage, his desperation. If someone had taken Michael or Emma when they were 7, I'd have burned the world down to get them back. No hesitation, no question. But sitting there, holding Katherine's letter, I also understood something else. These people didn't just take Sarah to keep me quiet, they took her to teach me a lesson. To show that they could reach into my life anytime, anywhere, and destroy what I loved. And if I gave them what they wanted now, what stopped them from coming back? Next month, next year, whenever they felt threatened again. Michael, I want Sarah back more than anything. You know that, but we need to think this through. Think what through? They made the rules clear. We follow their instructions or Sarah dies. But do we trust them? These people killed Katherine. Probably killed others. What makes you think they'll actually give Sarah back? He stared at me like I'd slapped him. So what's your plan? Refuse and guarantee they kill her? No. My plan is, we're smart about this. We figure out who has her, where she is. We get her back on our terms. We're not trained for this, Mom. We're not police or FBI or whatever. We're a nurse, a lawyer, and a teacher. We can't. We can try. I stood, faced both my children. I failed Katherine. I took her files and I hid them and I never did anything with them. I let her death mean nothing. I won't fail Sarah too. Emma reached for my hand. What do you need us to do? Michael looked between us. Torn, terrified. Finally, he nodded. Okay, but we do this fast. We have 31 hours now. So what's the plan? I spread the files across the table. First, we figure out who we're dealing with. These files mention Dr. James Patterson. He's still alive, still running his company. But he's got to be, what, 75? 80? He's not the one who took Sarah. Someone's working for him. Emma pulled out her phone. I'll search for recent news about Patterson Pharmaceuticals. See if there's any connection to Portland. Michael grabbed another stack. I'll look through these files. See if there are other names, other people involved. We worked in silence for an hour. Reading, searching. Connecting dots. Emma found the first lead. Mom, look at this. Patterson Pharmaceuticals just hired a new head of security. Former FBI. Guy named Marcus Webb. There's a photo. She showed me her phone. A man in his 50s, hard face. Military bearing. The kind of man who'd do terrible things without blinking. When was he hired? 6 months ago. Right after Patterson announced the new Portland facility. 6 months, plenty of time to plan, to research, to find out about me and my connection to Katherine. Michael held up a document. This is a list of people who worked on the experiments. 23 names. Most I don't recognize, but this one. He pointed. Dr. Helen Reeves. I know that name. She's a researcher at Oregon Health Sciences University. I've seen her at medical conferences. She's still active. We had 2 names now. Marcus Webb and Dr. Helen Reeves. 2 people connected to both the past and present. We need to talk to her, I said. If she was involved back then, maybe she knows where they'd take Sarah. She's not going to just tell us, Michael said. Why would she? Because she's a mother too. Emma had found Dr. Reeves' biography. Says here she has 3 daughters. Maybe she'll understand. Maybe she'll help. It was a long shot. But what choice did we have? We found Dr. Reeves' office number. I called. Got her assistant. Said it was an emergency regarding research from 1986. The assistant said. Dr. Reeves was in meetings all day. I told her to tell Dr. Reeves that Katherine Chen's files had been found. The assistant put me on hold. Came back 30 seconds later with an address. Dr. Reeves would meet us in 1 hour. Not at her office. At a coffee shop downtown. She knows, Emma whispered. She knows what happened to Katherine. We arrived at the coffee shop early. Sat in the back. Watched the door. At exactly 3 p.m., a woman walked in. Mid-70s. Gray hair. Expensive coat. She looked around, spotted us, and came over. You're Linda Martinez. It wasn't a question. She sat without being invited. I wondered when you'd show up. You know who I am? I've known who you are for 38 years. Ever since Katherine disappeared with those files, we couldn't find them. Searched everywhere. Eventually assumed she'd destroyed them. But you had them all along. My heart pounded. You were part of it. The experiments. I was young, naive, believed we were doing important work. By the time I understood what was really happening, it was too late to stop it. She looked at me with tired eyes. Katherine was going to destroy everything. Not just the company, the research, years of work. Yes, we made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. But we also made breakthroughs. Saved lives. She didn't care about any of that. She cared about the people you murdered. Dr. Reeves flinched. It wasn't murder. It was complications. Side effects we didn't anticipate. You knew the risks. You did it anyway. Yes. She met my eyes. And I've lived with that guilt for 4 decades. Funded scholarships in Katherine's name. Donated millions to medical ethics programs. Spent my entire career trying to make amends. It will never be enough. I know that. Michael leaned forward. They took my daughter. To keep those files hidden. Tell us where she is. Dr. Reeves looked genuinely shocked. They took a child. No, that wasn't the plan. Patterson said he'd handle you. Make sure you understood the consequences. But kidnapping, that's insane. Is it? I pulled out Katherine's letter. This is what you people do. You hurt anyone who threatens you. She read the letter. Her hands trembled. Katherine, God, I'd forgotten how passionate she was. How certain everything was black and white. She looked up. I didn't know they'd taken your granddaughter. I swear, if I'd known, I'd have stopped it. Can you stop it now? Emma asked. Can you help us get Sarah back? I don't know where she is. Marcus Webb handles security. He reports directly to Patterson. I'm kept out of those decisions. But you know Webb. You know how he operates. She hesitated, then nodded slowly. He's special ops. He doesn't believe in half measures. If Patterson told him to secure the situation, Webb would take it literally, eliminate the threat permanently. My blood ran cold. You're saying he's going to kill her? Even if I do what they ask? I'm saying Webb doesn't leave loose ends. A 7-year-old child who can identify her kidnappers. That's a very big loose end. Michael stood so fast his chair fell over. Then help us. Tell us where Webb would take her. I don't know, but ... She pulled out her phone, typed something, showed us a map. Patterson owns several properties around Portland. Most are labs and offices, but there's one, an old research facility in Forest Grove. Decommissioned 15 years ago. Webb has access to it. If I were hiding someone, that's where I'd go. She wrote down the address, slid it across the table. I can't undo what we did to Katherine, but maybe I can help save your daughter. Go now, before Webb gets new orders. We stood to leave. Dr. Reeves grabbed my hand. Mrs. Martinez, whatever you decide about those files, I understand. But know this. Patterson is dying. Cancer. 6 months at most. His empire is already crumbling. The truth will come out eventually, with or without Katherine's evidence. Then why take Sarah at all? Because he's a vindictive old man who wants to control how his story ends. He'd rather die knowing he won than leave any loose threads. She squeezed my hand. Save your granddaughter. The rest doesn't matter. We left. Got in the car. Michael drove like a man possessed. Forest Grove was 40 minutes outside Portland. Every minute felt like an hour. Emma called Detective Barnes. Told him we had a lead on Sarah's location. He said they'd send units immediately. Told us to wait, not approach the property ourselves. Michael kept driving. We're not waiting, he said. By the time they organize a response, Webb could move her, or worse. He was right, but I'd seen enough crime shows to know civilians rushing into dangerous situations usually ended badly. Michael, we need to be smart. If Webb is as dangerous as Dr. Reeves said, I don't care. That's my daughter. I'm not waiting. We reached Forest Grove as the sun was setting. The facility was on the outskirts, hidden by trees. No signs, just a long driveway leading to a concrete building. Michael parked a quarter-mile away. We approached on foot. Quietly. The building looked abandoned. Windows dark. No vehicles visible. But then I saw it. Light from a basement window. Faint, but definitely light. Michael saw it too. Started toward the building. I grabbed his arm. Wait, we don't know what's inside. How many people? If Sarah's even there. I'm not leaving her for one more second. Emma pulled out her phone. Police are 10 minutes out. We wait for them. 10 minutes could be too long. We argued in whispers. Then we heard it. A scream, high-pitched, terrified. Sarah Michael ran. Emma ran. I ran. All thoughts of caution gone. That was our baby screaming. The front door was locked. Michael, who I'd raised to be gentle and kind, kicked it open with one strike. We rushed inside. The building was dark. Smelled of mildew and chemicals. We followed the sound of Sarah's cries. Down a hallway. To a stairwell. Down. The basement was lit by a single bulb. And there, in the corner, was Sarah, tied to a chair, crying, alive. But she wasn't alone. Marcus Webb stood next to her, gun in hand, pointed at my granddaughter's head. Far enough. His voice was calm. Professional. Like he held guns to children's heads every day. I was wondering how long it would take you to figure it out. Michael held up his hands. Please, don't hurt her. We'll do whatever you want. Really, because what we wanted was for your mother to stay quiet, to let the past stay buried. But here you are, breaking into private property, forcing a confrontation. He shook his head. This is why I told Patterson this approach wouldn't work. People are irrational when family's involved. Let her go, I said. You want me? I'm here. Let Sarah go and I'll give you the files. All of them? The files are irrelevant now. Dr. Reeves contacted me 30 minutes ago. Said you'd figured it out. Said you were coming. Which means the police know too. Which means this entire operation is compromised. He moved the gun slightly. Sarah whimpered. So here's what's going to happen. You're all going to sit on the floor. Stay quiet. And in about 5 minutes, when the police arrive, you're going to tell them you made a mistake. Wrong location. Sarah was never here. You'll apologize for wasting their time and go home. And then what? Michael asked. You just let her go. Then I disappear. Patterson dies in a few months. The company gets sold. New management. And everyone forgets this ever happened. Your daughter lives, you all live, but only if you play along. It was a lie. I could see it in his eyes. He had no intention of letting any of us go. We knew too much. Had seen too much. But what choice did we have? He had the gun. Had Sarah. We were helpless. Then Emma, my sweet, quiet daughter, who'd never raised her voice in anger, did something extraordinary. She threw her phone at Webb's face. It was such an unexpected move that he flinched. Just for a second. His aim shifted. Michael lunged. They collided. Went down hard. The gun skittered across the floor. I ran for it, grabbed it, pointed it at Webb with shaking hands. Don't move. Michael had Webb pinned. Barely. Webb was trained. Strong. He could have thrown Michael off. But he saw me holding the gun, saw my finger on the trigger, and he went still. Emma untied Sarah. My granddaughter ran into my arms. I held her with one hand, kept the gun pointed at Webb with the other. Sirens in the distance, getting closer. It's over, I told Webb. Whatever Patterson paid you, it's not worth this. He laughed, actually laughed. You think this is about money? Patterson gave me purpose. After I left the bureau, I had nothing. He showed me that sometimes you have to do terrible things to protect important work. Katherine couldn't understand that. Neither can you. Katherine understood perfectly. That's why she tried to stop you. The police arrived, rushed the building, found us in the basement. Webb was arrested. Sarah was checked by paramedics. We gave statements that lasted hours. Detective Barnes took me aside around midnight. Mrs. Martinez, I need to ask. The files you mentioned, the evidence from 1986. Do you still have them? I looked at Sarah. Wrapped in a blanket, sitting between Michael and Emma. Safe, alive, home. Then I looked at Barnes, at this good man trying to do his job, trying to find justice. Yes, I have them, and I'll give them to you. All of them. Katherine died trying to expose what Patterson did. I'm not letting her death mean nothing. Not anymore. He nodded. It's going to get complicated. Patterson's lawyers will fight this. Could take years. I have time, and I have something they don't. I have the truth. The next morning, I sat in my kitchen, same mug, same coffee, but everything was different. Sarah was upstairs sleeping. Michael and Emma were on the couch, exhausted but together. Patterson Pharmaceutical's stock had crashed overnight. News of the files had leaked. Federal investigations were starting. Dr. Patterson was nowhere to be found. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Double quotes, Mrs. Martinez. A woman's voice, elderly, weak. My name is Patricia Chen. Katherine was my daughter. My breath caught. Katherine's mother. After all these years. Mrs. Chen, I'm so sorry. I should have come forward years ago. I should have. No. Don't apologize. Katherine knew the risks. She made her choice. But I need to know. Did she suffer? When they took her, was it quick? The question I'd been asking myself for 38 years. The question I'd never know the answer to. I don't know, but I know she was brave. She was trying to do the right thing. She never gave up. Mrs. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then, thank you. For keeping her files safe. For finally telling her story. She'd be proud of you. We talked for an hour. About Katherine. About who she'd been. About the girl I'd known and loved and failed to protect. When we hung up, Emma came into the kitchen. Mom, you okay? I wiped my eyes. Nodded. I will be. We all will be. What happens now? Now we testify. We make sure Patterson and Webb answer for what they did. We give Katherine justice. Finally, and then we live, really live. No more buried secrets. No more hiding from the past. We face it, deal with it, and we move forward. Sarah appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Grandma, can we make pancakes? I smiled, held out my arms. She ran into them. Yes, baby, we can make pancakes. We can make anything you want. Because that's what you do. You survive the nightmares. You face the monsters. You protect what matters. And then you make pancakes and you keep living. That's what Katherine would have wanted. That's what we all deserved. 3 months later, I stood outside the federal courthouse in downtown Portland. March rain fell steady and cold, but I didn't mind. I'd learned to appreciate every moment, even the uncomfortable ones. Sarah held my hand. She was different now, quieter, more careful. The counselor said it would take time. That trauma doesn't heal overnight, but she was here. She was safe. That was what mattered. Michael and Emma flanked us on either side. My children, My protectors. They'd taken leave from work to be here for every day of the trial. That's what families do. They show up. You ready, Mom? Michael asked. As ready as I'll ever be. The trial of Dr. James Patterson had dominated headlines for weeks. Federal prosecutors had built their case on Katherine's files. 38 years of buried evidence. Names, dates, medical records. Proof of illegal experiments. Falsified data. Deaths covered up. Dr. Helen Reeves had testified first, her voice shaking as she described what they'd done, the people they'd hurt. She'd cried on the stand, said she'd been haunted by it every day since. The defense tried to discredit her, but her testimony stood. Marcus Webb refused to testify, sat silent in his own trial, facing kidnapping charges. His lawyer argued he was just following orders, doing his job. The jury hadn't bought it. He was convicted 2 weeks ago, 30 years minimum. But Patterson was the one everyone wanted to see, the man behind it all, the architect of decades of suffering. He'd fought extradition from his home in Switzerland. Lost. Fought to have the case dismissed. Lost. Fought to delay on medical grounds. Lost again now. Finally, he'd run out of options. Today was his turn on the stand. We entered the courtroom. It was packed. Media, victims' families, medical ethicists, people who'd been following the case from the beginning. I saw Mrs. Chen in the second row, Katherine's mother, 86 years old now. She'd flown in from California for this. We'd become close over the past months, shared memories of Katherine, shared grief, shared determination to see justice done. She caught my eye, nodded. We were in this together. Patterson was already seated at the defense table. I'd seen photos, but they didn't capture the reality. He was gaunt, pale. The cancer was winning, but his eyes were still sharp. Still calculating. He looked at me, held my gaze. No remorse. No shame. Just cold assessment. I didn't look away. I'd spent 38 years running from this moment. I was done running. The judge entered. We all stood. The trial resumed. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Jennifer Cole, called Patterson to the stand. He moved slowly, used a cane, played up his frailty, but when he spoke, his voice was strong. Dr. Patterson, Cole began. You've heard testimony over the past weeks detailing illegal experiments conducted by Patterson. Pharmaceuticals in the 1980s. Experiments that resulted in multiple deaths. What do you have to say about that? I say it's fiction. Conspiracy theories built on forged documents and convenient memories. The documents were authenticated by 3 independent experts. Experts can be bought, as can witnesses. He looked directly at Dr. Reeves. Some people will say anything to avoid their own culpability. Cole didn't flinch. Let's talk about Katherine Chen, a research assistant who worked for your company. She disappeared in August 1986. What happened to her? I have no idea. The police investigated, found nothing. Sad story, but not my responsibility. She was last seen leaving your research facility with files documenting illegal activities. Files that have now been recovered. Doesn't that strike you as more than coincidence? Coincidences happen. Young woman. Big city. Unfortunately, these things occur. Cole showed him a document. This is your signature. Approving experimental protocol. 7743. Testing an anti-cancer drug on subjects who didn't meet FDA safety requirements. Subjects who died within weeks. Did you sign this? Patterson barely glanced at it. I signed thousands of documents. I can't remember every one. This one authorized lethal experiments on human beings. You don't remember that? We were trying to save lives. Sometimes experimental medicine requires difficult choices. Difficult choices. 18 people died. 18 people who were told they were receiving standard treatment, who didn't know they were test subjects. You call that a difficult choice. I call it the cost of progress. Every major medical breakthrough required sacrifice. Polio vaccine, chemotherapy, antibiotics. All tested on people who didn't fully understand the risks. That's how science works. The courtroom erupted. The judge called for order. But the damage was done. Patterson had just admitted it. On record, under oath. Cole pressed harder. So you're saying Katherine Chen was right? You were conducting unethical experiments. I'm saying Ms. Chen was an idealistic young woman who didn't understand the complexities of pharmaceutical research. She stole proprietary documents, violated her employment contract, and then disappeared rather than face consequences. You expect this court to believe she ran away? I expect this court to follow evidence, not emotions. Ms. Chen vanished 38 years ago. Her body was never found. For all we know, she's living on a beach in Mexico. Mrs. Chen made a sound. A small, broken sound. Emma reached across and held her hand. Cole paused. Let the moment breathe. Then, Dr. Patterson, are you familiar with Marcus Webb? He was head of security. Yes. Did you order him to kidnap 7-year-old Sarah Williams to prevent Linda Martinez from releasing Katherine Chen's files? Absolutely not. Mr. Webb acted independently. I was appalled when I learned what he'd done. You're saying you had no knowledge of the kidnapping? None whatsoever. Cole pulled out a phone record. This is a call from your private line to Mr. Webb's cell phone, 3 hours before Sarah Williams was taken. It lasted 14 minutes. What did you discuss? Patterson's jaw tightened. I don't recall. Probably routine security matters. Routine security matters that coincidentally occurred right before he kidnapped a child. You're putting words in my mouth. I never ordered any kidnapping. But you knew about the files. You knew Linda Martinez had them. I suspected someone did. Ms. Chen's files were never recovered. Logic suggested she'd given them to someone. And when you realized Mrs. Martinez had them, you decided to eliminate the threat. I decided nothing of the sort. If Mr. Webb took inappropriate action, that's on him, not me. Cole showed another document. This is an email from you to Mr. Webb. Dated 2 weeks before the kidnapping. Quote, the Martinez situation requires permanent resolution. Use whatever means necessary. No traces. That sounds like an order to me. Patterson's face paled. That email is taken out of context. I was discussing a business acquisition, not a child. A business acquisition named Martinez. How convenient. My company dealt with dozens of matters. Not everything was about Katherine Chen's ancient crusade. Ancient crusade. People died, Dr. Patterson. Katherine Chen tried to expose it and disappeared. And now you want us to believe it's all just unfortunate coincidence. I want you to believe the truth. I ran a pharmaceutical company. A successful one. We saved millions of lives. Made breakthroughs in cancer treatment. Heart disease, diabetes. Yes, we made mistakes. Early research wasn't as regulated as it is now. But to call it murder, to blame me personally, that's character assassination, not justice. Cole walked closer to the stand, looked him in the eye. Did you kill Katherine Chen? No. Did you order her killed? No. Do you know who did? I do not. But you knew she was dead. You said ancient crusade. Past tense. How did you know she was dead if you weren't involved? Patterson realized his mistake. Too late. I assumed, after 38 years. One assumes. One assumes. Or one knows because one was responsible. Objection. Patterson's lawyer jumped up. Speculation. Badgering the witness. Sustained, the judge said. Ms. Cole, move on. But the damage was done. The jury had seen it. Patterson's slip. His certainty that Katherine was dead. Cole spent another hour dismantling his testimony, showing documents, playing recordings, building an undeniable case. When she finished, Patterson looked smaller, older, defeated. The defense tried to rebuild, emphasized his charitable work, his contributions to medicine, the thousands of lives his company had saved. But it rang hollow against the evidence, against the bodies, against Katherine's voice from the grave. When the trial broke for lunch, I stepped outside. Needed air, needed space. Mrs. Chen found me. Thank you, she said simply, for keeping Katherine's work alive, for making sure she mattered. She always mattered. I'm just sorry it took me so long to prove it. You were afraid. I understand. You had children to protect, a life to live. Katherine would have understood too. I wish I could have saved her. You did, by telling her story, by making sure what she discovered didn't die with her. That's the best any of us can hope for. To matter, to make a difference. She squeezed my hand. She loved you, you know, talked about you all the time. Her best friend? The one person she trusted completely. Tears streamed down my face. I should have trusted her back, should have believed her when she said she was in danger. You were 22 years old. We all think we're invincible at 22. She didn't blame you. Neither do I. We stood together, two women connected by tragedy, by love, by the memory of a girl who'd been braver than any of us. The jury deliberated for 2 days. When they came back, the courtroom was silent. On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, how do you find guilty? On the charge of illegal human experimentation, how do you find guilty? On the charge of obstruction of justice, how do you find guilty? 11 counts, 11 guilty verdicts. Patterson showed no emotion, just sat there, still calculating, still convinced he'd find a way out. But there was no way out, not anymore. The judge scheduled sentencing for the following week. Patterson's lawyers immediately filed appeals, cited his age, his health, his contributions to society. The judge wasn't moved. Dr. Patterson, you had every advantage: education, resources, opportunity. You could have done tremendous good. Instead, you prioritized profit over people, power over ethics. And when someone tried to expose your crimes, you silenced her. You've spent 38 years evading consequences. That ends today. She sentenced him to 25 years. He'd die in prison. Everyone knew it. He knew it. As they led him away, he looked at me one last time, and I saw something I hadn't expected. Fear. For 38 years, he'd been in control, protected by money and lawyers and secrets. But now he was just an old man facing the consequences of his choices, facing the reality that his legacy would be shame, not success. I felt no satisfaction, no triumph, just sadness for all the wasted years, all the lives destroyed, all the good he could have done if he'd chosen differently. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed, asking questions, wanting statements. Michael and Emma ran interference while I got Sarah to the car. But before we left, I saw someone standing apart from the crowd. A woman, mid-50s. She approached hesitantly. Mrs. Martinez, I'm sorry to bother you. My name is Rebecca Torres. My brother was one of the test subjects. He died in 1987. He was 19. My heart broke. I'm so sorry. I just wanted to say thank you for coming forward, for making sure people know what happened. My family never got answers, never got justice. Until now. Because of you. Not because of me. Because of Katherine. She's the one who fought for this. I just finished what she started. Then thank you both. And please, if there's ever anything I can do, anything at all, you have a family that's grateful to you. Remember that. She walked away, and I realized she was right. This wasn't just about Katherine anymore, or Patterson, or even Sarah. It was about every person who'd been hurt, every family that had questions, every victim who deserved to be remembered. Katherine had started that work. I'd continued it. But it didn't end with Patterson's conviction. It would continue, through medical ethics reforms, through stricter regulations, through people like Rebecca Torres telling their stories. That was Katherine's real legacy. Not the files, not the trial, but the change that would come from it, the lives that would be saved because people knew the truth. 6 months later, I sat in my backyard, summer sun warm on my face. Sarah played on the swing set Michael had installed. Her laughter filled the air. She still had nightmares sometimes, still got scared when strangers approached, but she was healing, getting stronger, learning to trust again. Michael and Emma came over every Sunday now. We'd have dinner, share stories, be a family, not because we had to, but because we wanted to. The trial had changed us, made us realize how fragile everything was, how quickly it could all disappear, so we didn't take any moment for granted. Mrs. Chen visited once a month. She and I had become unlikely friends. 2 women bound by the past but focused on the future. She'd established a foundation in Katherine's name, funding young researchers, supporting ethical science, making sure Katherine's passion for helping people lived on. I'd testified before Congress about medical ethics, shared Katherine's story, helped draft new regulations for pharmaceutical testing. It wasn't enough to undo the harm, but it was something. Dr. Reeves had lost her medical license, but she'd started teaching ethics courses at universities, talking to students about the dangers of compromising principles. She called me sometimes, still seeking forgiveness. I wasn't sure I could give it, but I was trying. Patterson died in prison for months after sentencing. Cancer, as predicted. There was a small funeral. Almost no one attended. His empire had been dismantled, his company sold for parts, his name removed from buildings and scholarships. He'd spent his life building a legacy. In the end, it all came down to what he'd done in that research facility in 1986. That was what he'd be remembered for. Not the lives saved, but the lives destroyed. I didn't feel joy at his death, just a quiet sense of closure. It was finally over. Sarah ran over. Grandma, watch me. Watch this. She did a flip off the swing. Landed perfectly. Proud smile on her face. That was amazing, sweetheart. Daddy says I'm getting stronger. Says I'm the bravest girl he knows. Your daddy's right. You are brave. So brave. She hugged me. Are you still sad about your friend? The lady in the pictures. I'd shown Sarah photos of Katherine, told her age-appropriate versions of the story. She deserved to know why it all happened, why she'd been taken. Sometimes. But I'm also happy. Because she helped a lot of people. And now everyone knows her story. Will you tell me more stories about her? All the time. As many as you want. She ran back to play, and I sat there, watching her, thinking about Katherine, about the girl who'd been my best friend, my sister in all but blood. She'd been right. About everything. The experiments, the danger, the importance of telling the truth. And she'd paid for being right with her life. But her death hadn't been meaningless. It had sparked change, protected future victims. Her files had saved lives she'd never meet, changed laws she'd never see implemented. That was heroism, real heroism, not the kind in movies, the kind that cost everything and asked for nothing in return. I pulled out my phone, opened the photo I'd saved, Katherine at 22, smiling, confident, ready to change the world. We did it, I whispered. It took 38 years, but we did it. You can rest now. The sun set. Sarah laughed. Michael and Emma's voices drifted from inside, where they were preparing dinner. Normal sounds, happy sounds, family sounds. This was what we'd fought for. This moment, this peace, this chance to just be. Katherine had given us that, had sacrificed everything so people like Sarah could grow up in a world with better protections, stronger ethics, more accountability. I'd make sure she was never forgotten, would tell her story until my last breath, would make certain that every person who heard it understood what courage really meant. Because courage wasn't fearlessness, it was being terrified and doing the right thing anyway. It was Katherine walking into danger to protect strangers. It was Mrs. Chen living with grief but still fighting for justice. It was Dr. Reeves admitting her mistakes and trying to make amends. And maybe, in a small way, it was me, finally finding the strength to finish what my friend had started, to honor her memory by telling the truth. Sarah called me to dinner. I stood, took one last look at Katherine's photo, then put my phone away. The past was important, remembering was important, but so was living, moving forward, creating new memories. Katherine would have wanted that, would have wanted me to embrace every moment, love my family, fight for what's right, and never, ever stop believing that one person can make a difference. Because she had, against impossible odds, despite the cost, she'd made a difference that would echo through generations. And that, I realized, was the happiest ending possible. Not revenge, not punishment, but change. Real, lasting, meaningful change. I walked inside, into the warmth, into the laughter, into my family. And I smiled. Because we'd survived. We'd won. And we had the rest of our lives to honor Katherine's memory by living the way she'd wanted to live, bravely, honestly, with purpose. That was her gift to us. And I'd spend every remaining day making sure it wasn't wasted.